Hello, and welcome to the Tea. Today, I'm going to be speaking to you on something that's very, very serious and very intriguing because there are some details that are given to us without specifically telling us the who. We can assume, however, the details are so um how can I say it? The details are just so apparent and so vivid that it leaves little room, okay, for um assumption. But because we have not been given the specific person, again, we don't want to just so easily say that's who it is. So when you hear this story, you can determine prayerfully before the Lord who this person is, okay? I'm coming from, well, today's tea is coming from Daniel chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10, and it's coming from Revelation chapter 1. Now, all the chapters will be read in its entirety, but the focus of what I want to share today, okay? So I'm going to start today's first cup of tea with Daniel chapter 8, verse 15 and on down. Then we'll touch bases on chapter 9 and give reference from there, okay? And we're going to read, well, I'm going to read all of chapter 10 for you and part of Revelation chapter 1, okay? So in chapter 8, Daniel begins to talk about this vision he had, and it was very disturbing. The vision he had was about a goat and a ram, okay? So as he's talking about the vision of the ram and the goat, he's feeling so disturbed, and eventually he has a visitation. Now he tells us the name of this one who visited him the first two times. The first time he talks about this visitation is in Daniel chapter 8, okay? So this is what Daniel said. As I, Daniel, was trying to understand the meaning of this vision, someone who looked like a man stood in front of me, and I heard a human voice calling out from the Ulai River, Gabriel, tell this man the meaning of his vision. As Gabriel approached the place where I was standing, I became so terrified that I fell with my face to the ground. Son of man, he said, you must understand that the events you have seen in your vision relate to the time of the end. While he was speaking, I fainted and lay there with my face to the ground. But Gabriel roused me with a touch and helped me to my feet. Then he said, I am here to tell you what will happen later in the time of wrath. What you have seen pertains to the very end of time. The two-horned ram represents the kings of Media and Persia. The shaggy male goat represents the king of Greece. And the large horn between his eyes represents the first king of the Greek Empire. The four prominent horns that replace the one large horn show that the Greek Empire would break into four kingdoms, but none as great as the first. At the end of their rule, when their sin is at its height, a fierce king, a master of intrigue, will rise to power. He will become very strong, but not by his own power. He will cause a shocking amount of destruction and succeed in everything he does. He will destroy powerful leaders and devastate the holy people. He will be a master of deception and will become arrogant. He will destroy many without warning. He will even take on the prince of princes in battle, but he will be broken, though not by human power. This vision about the 2300 evenings and mornings is true, but none of these things will happen for a long time. So keep this vision a secret. Then I, Daniel, was overcome and lay sick for several days. Afterward, I got up and performed my duties for the king, but I was greatly troubled by the vision and could not understand it. Okay? That's the end of Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 9, he tells us about his prayer. Okay? Daniel prays for his people. So in chapter 9, starting in verse 20, now the first time, let me go back. The first time I want you to understand, in chapter 8, when Daniel had his first vision, okay, that disturbed him, he was under the 3rd year rule of King Belshazzar's reign. Okay? That's when he had that first vision that, again, disturbed him. Now, when he's praying, though, in Daniel chapter 9, he's under the rule of a different king named Darius. And this is Darius' first year as king when Daniel shares about his prayer. He prays for his people. So, in the 20th verse of Daniel chapter 9, it begins to tell us what's going on, and he has another visit. Okay? Gabriel's message about the anointed one. This is the message to Daniel. So, verse 20 says, I went on praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people, pleading with the Lord my God for Jerusalem, his holy mountain. As I was praying, Gabriel, whom I had seen in the earlier vision, came swiftly to me at the time of the evening sacrifice. He explained to me, Daniel, I have come here to give you insight and understanding. The moment you begin praying, a command was given. And now I am here to tell you what it was. For you are very precious to God. Listen carefully so that you can understand the meaning of your vision. A period of 70 sets of 7 has been decreed for your people and your holy city to finish their rebellion, to put an end to their sin, to atone for their guilt, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to confirm the prophetic vision, and to anoint the most holy place. Now listen and understand. 7 sets of 7 plus 62 sets of 7 will pass from the time the command is given to rebuild Jerusalem until a ruler, the anointed one, comes. Jerusalem will be rebuilt with streets and strong defenses, despite the perilous times. After this period of 62 sets of 7, the anointed one will be killed, appearing to have accomplished nothing, and a ruler will arise whose armies will destroy the city and the temple. The end will come with a flood, and war and its miseries are decreed from that time to the very end. The ruler will make a treaty with the people for a period of 1 set of 7, but after half this time, he will put an end to the sacrifices and offerings, and as a climax to all his terrible deeds, he will set up a sacrilegious object that causes desecration, until the fate decreed for this defiler is finally poured out on him. Okay, this concludes the end of Daniel chapter 9. Now, I did not read to you Daniel chapter 9, verse 1 through 19. That is something that you want to read for yourself. It is a lot of detail that's very good, but please read this for yourself, okay? And fact check. Now, I want to focus on Daniel chapter 9 and 26 because it's telling us something that I have not heard other leaders teach on, or anyone who is a Bible scholar make reference. Maybe it's because that first period has already happened. It tells us in the 26th verse that after this period of the 62 sets of 7, the anointed one will be killed, right? So We know who the anointed one is. It's referencing Jesus, which that time has already happened. So we know that prior to Jesus, the first 62 sets of seven has already happened. So after Jesus' death, of course, he rose. We are now understanding the other 70 sets of seven, right? Within that, we understand that there is the last set of sevens that shall take place when the man of sin will stand and do the things that he must do before Jesus comes and rule in the earth. Okay? Now, moving forward. Now we're in chapter 10. I'm going to read this whole passage to you because this is where it gets very interesting. Daniel has another visit. It's his visit of a messenger, okay? This detail of this messenger is not the same detail as was read to us or given to us in Daniel 8 and 9. Please listen. Chapter 10 starts off with, in the 3rd year of the king of Cyrus of Persia, Daniel, also known as Belteshazzar, had another vision. He understood that the vision concerned events certain to happen in the future, times of war, and great hardship. When this vision came to me, I, Daniel, had been mourning for 3 whole weeks. All that time, I had eaten no rich food. No meat or wine crossed my lips, and I used no fragrant lotions until those 3 weeks had passed. On April 23rd, as I was standing on the bank of the great Tigris River, I looked up and saw a man dressed in linen clothing, with a belt of pure gold around his waist. His body looked like a precious gem. His face flashed like lightning, and his eyes flamed like torches. His arms and feet shone like polished bronze, and his voice roared like a vast multitude of people. Only I, Daniel, saw this vision. The men with me saw nothing, but they were suddenly terrified and ran away to hide. So I was left there all alone to see this amazing vision. My strength left me. My face grew deathly pale, and I felt very weak. Then I heard the man speak, and when I heard the sound of his voice, I fainted and lay there with my face to the ground. Just then a hand touched me and lifted me up, and lifted me, still trembling, to my hands and knees. And the man said to me, Daniel, you are very precious to God. So listen carefully to what I have to say to you. Stand up, for I have been sent to you. When he said this to me, I stood up, still trembling. Then he said, don't be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day you begin to pray for understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your request has been heard in heaven. I have come in answer to your prayer. But for 21 days, the spirit prince of the kingdom of Persia blocked my way. Then Michael, one of the archangels, came to help me, and I left him there with the spirit prince of the king of Persia. Now I am here to explain what will happen to your people in the future, for this vision concerns a time yet to come. While he was speaking to me, I looked down at the ground, unable to say a word. Then the one who looked like a man touched my lips, and I opened my mouth and began to speak. I said to the one standing in front of me, I am filled with anguish because of the vision I've seen, my Lord, and I am weak. How can someone like me, your servant, talk to you, my Lord? My strength is gone, and I can hardly breathe. Then the one who looked like a man touched me again, and I felt my strength returning. Don't be afraid, he said, for you are very precious to God. Peace, be encouraged, be strong. As he spoke these words to me, I suddenly felt stronger and said to him, please speak to me, my Lord, for you have strengthened me. He replied, do you know why I have come? Soon I must return to fight against the spirit prince of the kingdom of Persia. And after that, the spirit prince of the kingdom of Greece will come. Meanwhile, I will tell you what is written in the book of truth. No one helps me against these spirit princes except Michael, your spirit prince. Okay, I hope you were able to digest that. I want to point some things out to you that Daniel did not say to Gabriel. He never called him Lord, okay? He never described Gabriel in the description that he described this particular person, this messenger that was sent to him. And we also notice that only Michael helps this particular messenger. So who is this messenger? Okay, what I'm going to do is read the details of description of this messenger again, and I'm going to take you somewhere, all right, and give you the last cup of tea to understand the similarities between the descriptions of this messenger. We don't know because the Bible doesn't specifically tell us who this messenger is, but we do see the similarities of this messenger that spoke to Daniel appears to be very similar to the messenger who spoke to John the Apostle, and we know who that messenger is, okay? So, it says in chapter 10 again, verse 4, on April 23rd, as I was standing on the bank of the great Tigris River, I looked up and saw a man dressed in linen clothing, with a belt of pure gold around his waist. His body looked like a precious gem. His face flashed like lightning, and his eyes flamed like torches. His arms and feet shone like polished bronze, and his voice roared like a vast multitude of people. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Let me give you the tea that comes from Revelation chapter 1, okay, verse 9. We're starting at verse 9. It says, I, John, am your brother and your partner in suffering and in God's kingdom and in the patient endurance to which Jesus calls us. I was exiled to the island of Patmos for preaching the word of God and for my testimony about Jesus. So here we know that John is speaking about something in past tense. He was not on the Isle of Patmos, okay, at the time of this writing. He tells us that it was a time when he was exiled. There are those who believe that John died on the Isle of Patmos, but he did not. John was on the Isle of Patmos for 10 years. That it can be found in the historical writings, okay, that's not given to us in here. Moving forward, verse 10, it says, it was the Lord's day, and I was worshiping in the spirit. Suddenly, I heard behind me a loud voice, like a trumpet blast. It said, write in a book everything you see, and send it to the 7 churches in the cities of Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamon, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. When I turned to see who was speaking to me, I saw 7 gold lampstands, and standing in the middle of the lampstands was someone like the Son of Man. He was wearing a long robe with a gold sash around his chest. His head and his hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like flames of fire. His feet were like polished bronze, refined in a furnace, and his voice thundered like mighty ocean waves. He held 7 stars in his right hand, and a sharp two-edged sword came from his mouth, and his face was like the sun in all its brilliance. When I saw him, I fell at his feet, as if I were dead. But he laid his right hand on me and said, "Don't be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I died, but look, I am alive forever and ever. And I hold the keys of death and the grave. Write down what you have seen, both the things that are now happening and the things that will happen. This is the meaning of the mystery of the 7 stars you saw in my right hand and the 7 gold lampstands. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches." Well, that's a lot to unpack. And I'm not going to tell you, okay, who that messenger was in Daniel. However, because we all have our own we all have our own assumptions, right? But I wanted to give you the information. I don't give an opinion because my opinion is not what matters. It's the facts that matter. It's the truth that matters. And sometimes opinions are not fact. And I hope that you were able to digest this prayerfully. Read it for yourself. Ask the Lord who that messenger was that spoke to Daniel. Ask Jesus, was it him? If that's who you're thinking, ask him who it was. Now, some things are given to us black and white. Some things are given to us through Holy Spirit as revelation. You have to determine that between you and the Lord. I hope these words have found you well. And until the next time you sit with me, stay focused and enjoy your tea.